Hello everyone, my name is Tuğberk Kaya and today we will have our first lesson for international business. So first let me introduce you myself in a short way. I had studied in University Campus Suffolk, which was a joint institution of University of Essex and East Anglia. And I studied business management and marketing there. Then I moved to London, Kingston University to carry out my postgraduate education. I studied information technologies, strategic innovation and management there. And later on I decided to come back to my country, lovely country. And since then I am doing my PhD studies on innovation and knowledge management, which is my almost final year. I am on my thesis and I am lecturer since then at the Faculty of Economics and Administrative Sciences. So, if you would like to get more information about the academic research I have done, you can check out my ResearchGate. And for any inquiries within the lectures you have, you can send me an email anytime you need. If you look at the core text, this is this lovely book. So you can find it online or in other places libraries. This is from Hill. It's International Business Competing in Global Marketplace, and you will find it useful, and the slides will be related this book. So if we look at our daily objectives, we need to first understand what is international business and how this concept emerges, what happened before and what are the triggers of the international business concept, which is mainly globalization. Later on we will have insight, deep understanding of the fields, and we will look at the strategic challenges against the concept of the international business and mainly against what are the against factors of the globalization. So, probably you heard the term before. Everybody is saying that we now live in a globalized environment, and if you look at the definition, it is the shift toward more integrated and interdependent world economies. So beforehand, economies used to be within their nations. Trade, export and imports used to be limited, but nowadays the devices we use, the products we buy can come from any country. So if you look at this device, you can tell this is an Apple product. It is designed in USA, produced in China, and now from Cyprus I can use it anytime when I need. So we live in integrated economies, and we will see how this international business concept started. Firstly, we will have globalization of markets. So historical wise, it's merging of distinct and separate nations, and then we have a huge one global marketplace. And you can think about the trading blocks for this example, like European Union. So it's formed in order to protect the raw materials. It started within the coal. Then now we have the largest membership of the world. Even some countries start to move out from the Union. Still, this is the largest trading bloc and largest global marketplace. And we also have globalization of production. So you can source goods and services from locations around the world, and you can take advantage of national differences in the means of cost and quality when the factors of production are considered. So let me give you another example. If you look at factors of production, it's land, labor, capital and enterprise. So we can carry on the example with the Apple case. Apple is a US company, and it is one of the largest multinationals, which I will examine in later on in the slides. So the labor force, yes, they have their headquarters in Ireland because of the tax savings and issues. So their headquarters in Ireland, which is the far end of Europe. And also they have spaces, I mean any other centers within the USA, but their production is mainly in China. And what do you think the reason behind this is the cheap labor force? As because of the population, the Chinese, there is high rates of unemployment, and many population, a much number of population which has already ready to become employed, so the wages are really low. So they take the advantage of having cheap labor force from the China. Same was if you look at the clothing industries, you can think about Zara. The production is mainly in India, Bangladesh or Turkey because the production costs are lower when it is compared within the Europe. So before this globalization concept arises, there needs to be some trigger of it, and this is the emerge of global institutions. So first, the countries come together and decide, let's have an agreement on tariffs and trade. And tariffs is a tax imposed on the products and services, where I will explain within the graphs in upcoming slides. Later on, we have the World Trade Organization. Probably you are familiar with this term, and they are responsible for policies which regulate the world trading system, and they need to make sure that the nations obey the rules which are signed within the member of states of World Trade Organization. This organization is also responsible for facilitating and establishment of multinational agreements within the member states. So after this institution, there is a medium that countries can trade easily and without having any troubles. And when they use a restriction, it may cause a war situation, which is later on may be examined. Okay, over its entire history, the World Trade Organization has prompted lowering barriers to cross-border trade and investment. So if, as a Cypriot, if I like to invest in USA, yes, I can invest now, due to the regulations have been lifted. But beforehand, the country used to have limitations where the individuals cannot invest easily in any other countries. So if we carry on the concept, we have International Monetary Fund, IMF, probably you heard about it, and the World Bank. They both created in 1944 by 44 nations. The IMF was established to maintain order in international monetary system, so they can track the monetary within the world easily with a medium of exchange. The World Bank is less controversial of the two sister institutions, so the IMF has the more rigid regulations, make countries to obey the regulations to control their monetary system, but the World Bank is more generous in that way. And the World Bank has focused on making low interest loans to cash-strapped governments in poor nations in order to make them develop and get better. And most of these infrastructure investments to make the countries more advanced in the technological wise, health wise, and education wise. And if we carry on, United Nations, a famous one of the institutions, still they are in Cyprus since 1960s. They are established in October 24, 1945 by 51 countries. When they come together and sign, they said that we are committed to have peace throughout international cooperation and within the security line of the countries. Another one, G20, is formed from finance ministers and central bank governors, because you know the finance and the bank of governors determine all money related issues of the largest 19 economies. As I already mentioned, the representatives from the EU also join, so finance representative and European Central Bank representative join G20 to take decisions on global approach, because the decision they take affect other nations as well. So all these institutions were created by voluntary agreement between individual nation states, and their functions are enshrined in international treaties. So what are the drivers of globalization? Why it has emerged? Why this has happened? So we already mentioned about declining trade and investment barriers. As the barriers decreases, people become more easy to transfer goods, buy goods from another country they like, and it was a trigger for globalization. International trade occurs when a firm exports goods and services to consumers in another country. So if you watch this video from Germany or France, it becomes an export of a service. So even we can have now international trade within our online systems, which I will mention in a minute. And foreign direct investment occurs when a firm invests in business activities outside their nation. So we can take the example of Cyprus. If we decide to have a plant in another country, we can directly invest in that country, and it becomes foreign direct investment because the investor is from another country. Many of the barriers to international trade took the form of high tariffs on imports of manufactured goods. So goods used to be applied high tariffs, high taxes, so their prices used to be higher. So what do consumers do? Rationally, they will take the lower price, which most of the time used to be domestic goods. But when the removal of the barriers of the tariffs started, then they had the opportunity to choose from whether I would like the domestic product or product from another country. So if you look the declining trade barriers in depth, so if we have tariff, I already explained it, a tax on imports to make them more expensive. So why a country might decide to put a tariff on the products which are imported? The reason behind is to protect the domestic producers. So consider that we are producing watch, and you can also have watch from another companies or in other countries. Think about the company of Swatch. So when the products of the Swatch comes, when there is a tariff on them, their products will be more expensive. So when we think rationally, our citizens might prefer to get local watch instead of the brand to pay lower. Or they might decide, okay, I will go for the expensive option and I will get imported one. So we have a table there which shows average tariff rates on manufactured products as their percentage. So what this table shows to us, by 1913, there used to be high percentage of tariffs on the goods. And by the 19th, it started to decline for France and Sweden. By 1990s, this is where the globalization started to show its impact. So it was almost half, 5 points for each country. And by 2005, within the emergence of Europe and the technology and declining trade barriers, now we only have around 4% within different countries the tax on imported goods, and this shows that buying imported products is easy and cheaper now when compared with the previous century. So if we carry on, this graph, this shows us the general trend, what happened to the taxes. And again, we can see that by 1996, it was around the worldwide 10%, and it started to decrease by 2010. So we still can see that the taxes imported decreases, and it triggers the allowance of globalization. Okay, I talked about the multinationals before. I mentioned it. And you can think about any multinationals like Apple, Zara, Starbucks, Ford. And there's an enterprise or any business which has a production activities in 2 or more countries. So simple to understand, anything that you use basically started to become multinational, and they are really important for the world's economy. They create jobs for the unemployed people, they have exchange of goods and services, they support developing countries in the ways of they use their labor force, and hopefully they pay well for them. So you can research, and research is one of the important skills for you to complete your bachelor studies. So I advise you work on your research skills, and you can research five multinationals for the last year, and you can have a better understanding of them. And if we look at this graph, it shows the number of multinationals worldwide. So by 1980s, United States used to be dominant for them. The globalization concept started within that country, so we can see they are dominant, and the more than 40% used to be by them. But nowadays, we can see that within developing countries, still there are multinationals by the 2001. And United Kingdom and Germany also start to number of the multinationals they have. So what is the role of the technological change? ICT, information and communication technologies. So beforehand, communication was difficult. So consider that we have a product and we need to sell it to France. We need to first send one of the prototype of the product, yeah? When we have first this pen, we need to send it, and they can test it, and if they like it, they can order. It used to take 365 days before the airplanes to complete a cycle within the world. Then we have the airplanes, development of the technology, development of a new era. what we have, we can travel all the world in 24 hours. And even what more is advanced, when you have something in mind and when we have developed something new, we can press a couple clicks and it's online, is already there, and everybody from anywhere of the world can see it. So we have Moore's law. It predicts that the power of the microprocessor technology doubles and its cost of production falls in every 18 months. So it will be half the cost, so we can have better devices for cheaper in every 18 months according to this law. Internet and the World Wide Web, www.anything.com, you can see, you can search, you can Google it, and we have new era of communication. So by the internet, what we have, e-commerces, and we already mentioned about the transportation technology. We can now transport goods easily. We have e-commerce sites thanks to the internet like Amazon, Alibaba, eBay, anything you can think about. Probably you have visited this website before and you purchase products, and this shows that sitting from here you can buy anything from any place of the world. And you can be a businessman, international businessman, by selling your products on these platforms. And also social networks change the way we communicate, the way we talk. I'm not going to give too much explanation on it because you already know what social networks are, but they become more dominant than our mobile phone communications. Rather than talking, we are on the social media, we can talk from there. So businesses also had potential on there, so they can work there, they can communicate there, and they can sell their products there. And these all figured the globalization concept because you don't mind about where the product is coming from, what you focus on, whether can I get it cheaper and more quality and easily. And when you use social media or internet, you can do it in so ways. And there is also debate what's going on within the globalization. We have critiques of it, the no logo concept, and you can watch this video. This is a short version of it, and I also add the link to the long documentary, which is 40 minutes long. So when you check these links, you can see the critiques about globalization and understand why the people are against this concept. To what extent the large companies, the multinationals, protecting the domestic industries, or do they protect them? Because we have the cases like Foxconn in China. This is the way the Apple products is produced, and they have really bad reports about child usage, child labor usage. They have high rates of committing suicides because they have learned helplessness. The people producing these devices cannot be able to buy these devices within their salaries if they save them for 4 years. So think about their situation, psychological analysis. So whether the globalization is always good or whether the multinationals always help these is questionable. So this video, this concept, the no logo concept, is one of the biggest critiques of globalization, and it will be useful for you to read and to watch about it. Okay, for any questions, that was our first session, so it's better to have just quick introduction. For any questions, anytime, you can log in our portal and we will have live session there, live chat there, and also you can send me an email as I already mentioned. Hopefully you will find it useful. Do not forget to make your research about the critiques of the globalization and about the other concepts, the multinationals, who are they, which companies are they, how many people they employ, and don't forget the emergence of the globalization, and also start to think about what effect does it have on our daily life. Would you think it is better if we all use domestic products, or we don't have any communication within the rest of the world? What about the health sector? What of the industries? What of the cars we use? We have now many technological devices produced everywhere in the world. So start to think about this concept, because next week we will start to get more understanding and more criticizing of it. Okay, thank you.